My NDE took place on April 2nd of 2020. Prior to that, I had been waking up with a taste of blood in my mouth, and I'm like, what's going on? Severe fatigue was also a part of what was going on. But to get to the NDE, it was April 2nd, 2020. I had come home from work and feeling very tired, but I made myself just a sandwich and I sat down on the couch and started watching some TV. Took a couple bites, and then I kind of like verped. I threw up in my mouth, and it was really horrible. I mean, a taste that I had never tasted before, and I was like, ugh. Then I went to take another bite, and bright red blood just covered my sandwich, and I was like, I mean, bright red, like brighter than an apple. It wasn't dark, it was bright red, pinkish almost. And I started coughing, and more came up, and it filled my plate. And I'm sitting there in disbelief. And then all of a sudden, I try to take a breath, and there was no breath to be had, and I'm continuously coughing, more and more blood. So panic set in, when you can't breathe, there's a problem there. So I frantically was trying to FaceTime my ex-wife. She's an RN, a nurse. So I had run to the kitchen where I'm continuously coughing up copious amounts of blood, just nonstop. And she finally answered at FaceTime, and she was like, what do you want? And I said, I need, and blood covered the phone. And this is one of the last things I remember. I just remember her jumping up and saying, Jason. And I said, look, I'm tired. I'm going to get emotional. I said, I just want to go to bed. I'm tired. She said, Jason, if you go to bed, you're going to die. I said, I'm just tired. I want to go to sleep. She goes, you will die if you close your eyes. And then she turned the phone off. And I was like, wow, why couldn't our marriage be like that? That was beautiful, And that's all I remembered. And I then woke up in the, what I know now is the ICU. I had a tube in my mouth. I had an IV in my carotid artery. My hands and feet were strapped to the bed and stuff in my nose. It was now dark. So what day it was, I have no idea. I woke up and my eyes opened. There was a myriad of doctors. I mean, a room full of them. Jason, do you know who you are? Do you know who you are, where you are? Who's the president? I'm like, I can't talk, but from the moment my eyes awoke, up into the left-hand corner of the room was an undeniable presence, undeniable. Something was there. And it was something I guess I could now know was a familiar feeling, like I wanted to go there badly, and I just kept staring at it for the entire month that I was in the ICU. And finally, one day a nurse said, Jason, do you want me to turn on the TV? And again, I can't answer, my hands, and it's like, no, it's like, how do you tell somebody's standing right there where the TV is? There's somebody there, They think I was nuts. So, at the end of the month, at the end of April, I had the tube taken out. I was recovered and IV and all this stuff. And I'll give you a little bit of backstory before I get actual into it. I grew up Catholic. I was raised Catholic by my grandparents. Went to church, CCD, firmly believed in the Bible. Good, bad, right and wrong, heaven and hell, right? Everything that you've been taught, everything that I've been taught. So, and now at a very early age, I quit going to church. I quit having a relationship with God. I was abused as a child. I was beaten. So I figured God didn't love me, so I was doomed, and I just didn't care, So for over 40 years, I never had a relationship or even spoke to God. But now, your life, or you figure your life is ending, there was no one in the room. It was a beautiful sunny day. And I'm looking out the window and at this TV, and with all the muster I could get, I got up on my hands and knees because I had lost 70 pounds on that ventilator that month, So I was extremely lethargic, and I had no strength. I couldn't talk. And I got up and I was shaking uncontrollably, and I called out to God. And I said, And I was sobbing uncontrollably, and I probably will here too if I tell you how it really is. And I said, God, please, please don't let me die. I was like, please don't take my children from me. Please let me see my daughters again. And I said, there's someone here I love. Please don't take her from me. Please. I said, I love you with all my heart. Please. I'm sorry I abandoned you. I said, I'm sorry I abandoned Jesus. I said, please don't take them from me, please. And then in that moment, as I was describing my love for this being, I was out of my body and at the ceiling, and I saw everything I could see everything. It was a 360-degree view. I could see everybody dying in the hospital. And I could feel their pain and I could feel their needs and wants. I was engulfed in this unbelievable love and light of a magnitude that you can't even begin to imagine. And within an instant, I knew exactly where I was. I said, I'm home. And I was like, how could you know you're home if how could I know these things? I had the instant knowledge of oneness within a trillionth of a second. I knew everything there was to ever know. And I could see, I was up on high in the hospital, and I could see probably third or fourth floor. I could see every blade of grass moving independently. I could see the serrations. I could see the soul. I could see the liquid moving inside it. I could feel their love for me. I could see the tree's soul and how happy they were to see me and to communicate with me. And I said my next thought, and these were thoughts, it was like, what a beautiful day to die. Like I have done it a million times before. It was so natural. It was like putting on a pair of old sneakers to go mow the lawn. You got rid of them for a reason, but they still feel good when you put them on. They fit you, right? So that's what that feeling of home was like. And nothing was ever said. Nothing was ever said. I knew everything. I knew the light was my Father, was God. So that presence standing in the room was Father. And I hadn't had a relationship with him in 40 years. So I think, why would he come to me when I abandoned him? And I did all of these horrible things in my life. And I felt so unworthy of standing in such magnificence that the guiltier I felt, the more he loved me. And I was just in constant this love. It was just as warm as the sun, and it flowed through every part of my being, every part of my being. And then how much time this was, I don't know. It could have been 5 minutes, 5 hours, 15 hours. I have no clue. And as I was gazing at all of this, another presence showed up. And it was more like right in front of me. But even though I'm seeing everything. So this presence showed up. And that presence I recognized immediately as Yeshua, as Jesus. And I was in constant, even more love. It was almost to the point of stifling, like you wouldn't be able to breathe. Like someone's putting their hand over your mouth and nose, and then we'll let go for a trillionth of a second just to get some air. And that's what the love was like. And I knew it was him. I could instantly recognize his energy and his presence. And again, I was just engulfed in this love. And I'm seeing all of this, feeling all of this. And then as he came to me, and now I didn't see anything, but his hands were on my soul at the time and started pushing it back into my body. And then as he laid me down into bed, I was instantly out. I mean, unconscious. I woke up again to a myriad of nurses desperately trying to wake me up. And they couldn't. They said, well, we're here for your meds. I said, I'm not taking any more meds. I mean, how do I tell somebody what just happened to me? And that when I woke up, I immediately turned to the left, and that presence was now gone. And I was like, how do I reconcile what just happened to me? I knew where I was. I know who that was. Now, if I were to tell the nurses and the doctor, hey, I was just in heaven with my Father and Jesus, they'd lock me up or throw away the key or both. So, I sat on this for months, and I had to learn how to walk. I had to learn how to talk. I had to learn how to eat. I was basically a 50-year-old invalid. I couldn't do any of these things, because I abruptly left the hospital when I shouldn't have, because I couldn't do any of those. I couldn't take care of myself, So when I came home, I was in a very deep depression, very deep, and I was like, how could you do this? That's not fair. You can't do that to people. That's, I didn't want to be here anymore. I didn't care about my children. I didn't care about anybody, because everybody was right where they needed to be in that moment, even those that were dying of COVID or that disease or whatever, So I had to do a lot of searching. I didn't know what I experienced. There was no terminology, I asked Father, I said, what happened to me? And then I was led to YouTube, and then I, started doing research. I'm typing in all of this stuff. What happened to me? And up came an NDE, and I'm like, a near-death experience. So I listened to it, and I'm in instant tears. He had a similar one to me, and I was like, wow, this happened to other people too, And then I began a 4-year research binge, like reading books, Raymond Moody, Course in Miracles, Conversations with God, Tina Spalding, you name it. I was in it, I did then where did this Bible come from? So I did the research on the Bible and all of that. And, as I slowly began to recover deep in my depression, this was 2 months, April, May, but around this time, 4 years ago, I was quite angry. And, I raised my voice to God. And I said, you needed to pick another person, pal. Okay. You needed to pick a pope, a bishop, somebody worthy of what just happened. Okay. And I was pacing around in my room, and then I said it again. You picked the wrong person. And I'm sobbing, and I'm feeling all of these emotions at home. And that, believe it or not, Father's talking to me through my emotions. He said, I love you. You're okay. And then in Father's last desperate attempt to be with you, he will physically speak to you. And this is the first time I heard my Father's voice. When I said, you picked the wrong person, it was a stern voice, it was a loving voice, and it was to make sure that I fully understood. And when I said that, he says, why not? You are my son. As clear as day. And I dropped to my knees. I raised my hands. I said, all that I am you. Where that came from, I don't know. But I basically said, I am God. And I get it. I know who I am now. And then that became the unquenchable thirst that I'm on now, where I am, I will heal everybody. I will tell my story. I will help whoever it is that is waking up. And, when whatever religion they're in, they're 1 and 1 isn't adding up to 2 anymore, right? So there's then, how can millions of these people be talking, have a different story, but having them all the same around the world? Something's not adding up. What's wrong? What's the problem? What's the problem? The common denominator of the problem is religion, right? Religion divides. Spirituality brings us together, right? And that's what it is about. So I had this voice in my head say, go to church or call your pastor. So I called my pastor. I was a Christian. So I called, and we met in his chamber. And again, I'm crying. I'm telling my story. And he's sitting there for 45 minutes, never moved, right? And now I know the look on his face was utter horror, because I know the truth. Your shit that you've been shoveling for 2 millennia is false, right? I was with my father. I shouldn't have been there. But hell doesn't exist. Heaven doesn't exist. They're just terminology that the church uses to keep people living in fear. And when I told him that, he basically banished me. He blackmailed, not blackmailed me, but he, wrote me out of the church. He wanted me to speak in front of the parishioners and all of this. And he said all of that just to get me out. He never returned my phone calls. He never returned my texts. He didn't allow me back into the church. And that was the confirmation that I needed from Father to say, see, I told you, okay? And then, as I said, I went on my information binge, and I still am, in getting as much information as I can out to all of you to help you on your spiritual journey, right? To give you the truth, because we've all been indoctrinated and victimized into a system that doesn't work, that keeps you living in fear. Fear doesn't exist. It exists up here. The church knows this, right? So what do? They keep you living in fear. So you come to them, say, well, maybe God will spare you, if you, no. So I'm on that quest now, and I'm on that trail to liberate people's minds from themselves, basically, you know. So, I mean, in essence, in the short form, that was my near-death experience. I've had several out-of-body experiences, several meetings with archangels and my guides. I've had surgery, believe it or not, on this couch from the non-physical. I've had many, many experiences since my near death. I am being guided down the path to where I need to be. So, I mean, it was a very beautiful experience, but it was the after effects that really take a toll on one. Because when you're at home, everything is gone. The ego's gone, fear is gone, all of this is gone. And now you are your true self. You have merged with your higher self. You've become one with Father. You are one, and you're home. So, but then you get thrust back into this physical, low vibrationary world, and it's almost torture. It takes a lot of work to drag yourself back up from that experience. But then when what, let's put it this way, there's no going back. Okay, there's no going back to who you were. You know who you are. You can't say, well, I think, no, there is none of that. I know who and what I am. Let's say I know what I am, and I'm not a human being. I've never been a human. You're not a human being. Okay, you are a God, pure and simple. Okay, we came here, we flipped Father off. We said, F you, I'm not you anymore. I want to call the shots. And he said, okay, you want to do that? There you go. What do? We created the universe. We created everything in it. And now we're in it. And now all of a sudden, the ego's been in full control for millennia. And all you have to do is watch the news and you'll understand that. And he had to intervene. He sent Jesus to tell us who we are, right? What did we do to Jesus? We murdered him. So, yeah, now I'm on that quest. I will liberate people from, that indoctrination of religion, organized religion. Sorry for being emotional. It gets me.
That's good. The most important on my podcast is people to be real. Now, you said that God sent Jesus to earth. How do you explain that he sent Jesus to earth? Did Jesus make a decision to come back here to teach us?
Jesus was in a different realm at the time. And the reason he chose Jesus, or is not, the church calls him Jesus, his real name here on this plane was Yeshua Bar Yosef. That was his his chosen name here. So when he came and asked Yeshua to do this, it was because he was of such high vibrancy, right? He had made it to the top of what we're all trying to do, okay? So he came to him and said, look, I need you to do this for me. And they actually had a disagreement. Jesus was like, I don't think this is the right time for this. I think we should wait. And Father's like, no, I need you to do this. And of course, when Father asks us to do something, what do? We say, absolutely. So Jesus came. And we all know the story, except his only mission was to love, and he showed that unconditionally. Jesus was a master. When he was in his last incarnation, he mastered two things. He mastered love, because none of us on this physical realm, except those that have had an NDE, know what love is. And two, he mastered the body. Our bodies are not real. Like the universe, it's simply a hologram. He mastered those two things, and that's what Father wants. He had direct communication from home, from the time he was born up until he went back home. So he had a direct line of communication, like you and I are talking. They guided him to where and what he needed to do. And he was chosen simply because of his high vibration. Okay. And that was it. And he came and did what he was told to do. And he loved unconditionally. It did not matter who or what you were, whether you were a prostitute, whether you were a banker, whether you were a shepherd, a farmer, it did not matter. He loved you unconditionally and wanted to know you, spend time with you, which is something that this world desperately needs right now. We need that to take place. So that's why Yeshua was chosen, because of his high vibration.
So, are there any more angelic high vibrations being like Jesus on the other side? Or he is the only one chosen son, the only one that can save people?
No, we all can save each other. We're all one. You are me and I am you. You are your neighbor. You are the guy living in Alaska, okay? You've just forgotten who you are. So in order for us to incarnate here in the physical realm, you cannot just come here. You cannot. It is not allowed. So what you do is you get with your guides and your archangel, and then you have what is called an overlord or a supervisor. Like if you were in a job, you have a supervisor that you talk to, right? He kind of supervises and runs the show. He is in charge of your spiritual upbringing. Okay. So technically he is higher than Jesus. So we have much higher beings, higher than Jesus, much higher, much more knowledgeable. Okay. Is Jesus up there? Yes. But you have ascended masters that Jesus is learning from still, and so on and so forth. So I have a supervisor who is directly in charge and responsible for my spiritual growth, as you do. You have a couple guides, you have your archangel, and then you have your overlord. So when you leave your body every night, everybody leaves. We don't sleep, we don't eat, we don't do any of that. We're simply multidimensional beings living multiple lives right now. So when we go home, that's what we do. We merge with our higher self. We talk to our overlord. We talk to our guides, and we make sure that we're on the right path. And we are going to keep going in this direction. So when you wake up in the morning, that is when you return to your body, and you'll have an adjustment time. You wake up and you're like, oh, well, I slept pretty good or I slept bad, but you received knowledge from your higher self during your sleep. Because again, the body needs to sleep. We do not. So you went home, you communicated with your overlord, you communicated with your guides, made sure everything's good. And, you may have went out and saw some friends and helped people. And then, you came back into your body. Now you may notice something. Sometimes you'll hear people wake up and all of a sudden they're frozen. They can't move, right? They're paralyzed. They call it sleep paralysis, right? I've had that happen to me twice. And all that is your body woke up before you entered it. And that is why you can't move. The only reason you can move your hands and face is because you're in here controlling the corpse. So when people wake up, like I did, I'm like, I couldn't talk, I couldn't breathe. And then I was put back to sleep, and then you wake up because you entered your vehicle again and you're able to move. So, no, there are much higher beings.
So when this NDE happened, how long it took you to realize that you are awakened? And how long it took you to find your purpose in life, to realize your purpose in life?
I would say 3 years.
Okay.
The depression lasted a very long time. I started my ascension coming up on a year now. So in August of last year, um, in June, I started feeling really sick again, really tired, and all of a sudden I kept walking and my pants kept falling off, and I'm like, "What the hell?" And went to work one day. They said, "Go to the hospital." I did. I handed in my doctor's excuse. They fired me the next day, and I was like, but I was really sick. I mean, I was really sick. I was waking up. I was shaking uncontrollably. My body hurt. I was literally waking up like somebody had dumped water in the bed. So I would try and roll over to the right or left. And it was literally liquid. It was puddles of water, ice cold water. And I was like, what is going on? Right. And I was just shivering um, and all of this, and so I did more research. What is going on with me? And I found out that my ascension is well underway. I'm transforming from the carbon-based body to the silica, to the I can't think of it right now, the crystalline body. So my spine is you're going through this too, but I'm having at it real bad. So I'm being inundated with light, right? My body is changing to receive this high vibrational light coming from home. It's affecting my body. It's affecting sleep, my moods. My spine is taking in more light, and that's why I'm having back pains, the massive sweats that are coming because my true self is coming down and merging with me and helping this body integrate into its new form. So, and I'm still doing that. Like right now, I am sweating profusely. It is, I have all the windows open and I'm still drenched in sweat because they're agreeing with, what's taking place here. So my higher self is merging with me and I'm like literally sweating. So it took me a good 4 years and I'm still going through it. So it's difficult. Yep. It's four
It happened in
years.
2020. What month was that?
April.
April. So it's
April
exactly.
2nd.
So when did you start? When did you begin to talk about this? When you came out from the spiritual closet, so to say? When you start sharing this experience with people?
When I started doing research, when I was led to go to YouTube, because prior to then I didn't care. I just didn't want to be a part of that. What I thought at the time was crap, but I
Yeah.
was led to YouTube. And then when I started listening to these NDEs, there was one that was very close to what happened to me. Hers was a car accident, but the way she described it and what happened to her was almost identical to me. And she goes, I know nobody's going to believe me. I know nobody's going to listen to me. And I was like, I can't let this poor person think that she's out of her mind. So I typed a long message and I said, you're not crazy. This happened to me. And I said, I thought I was crazy. I said, I know I'm not. I was more alive out of this dead body than I was in it. And somebody had mentioned it. It was a Love Covered Life with Melissa Denye's. She had found me or read the comment. Said, would you like to be on my show? And I said, sure, because it was a constant nudge. Like Father's like, come on, we need to get on track. This is what we planned. And it was a constant, like still now, come on, and so I started talking about it, and she goes, do you know Jeff Mara? I said, this is completely new to me. I am out of my league. I don't even know what I'm talking about, or any of this. And I said, sure, pass it on. So Jeff, watched my interview with Melissa, and then everything exploded with Jeff Mara. And then during this last August, when I got fired, I was sitting here applying for jobs, and Father's voice, start your YouTube channel. And I'm like, how do I do that? So a person that had contacted me like yourself, I was his first interviewee, and his channel exploded. So when I told him what I was doing, he says, you know what? since you helped me, he says, I'm going to do your video editing for free. But when you reach a higher number, you're going to need more of a professional. But he said, because of what you did for me, um, so he edits my videos, and it became my channel took off, and then I started my own website. I heard that, start your website, start your business. So I started my business. People will come into your life at precisely the right time to, because that's the way meaning he is one of, that being is very important. You're important to each other and have decided to come help each other,
Yeah.
And that's the way it works, So it was a true blessing. It's like when you want to talk to Father, remember this, tell him right off the bat. Like when I wake up and I say, Father, I'm blessed. I'm grateful for another day to do better than what I was yesterday. You have to tell them that you're grateful for your little home, the meal that you ate, the friends that you have, the ability to stand in the grass and take a breath of air. Be grateful for everything that you have, because you don't have to be here. He doesn't have to allow you this delusion, this whacked out nightmare that we're in at the moment, right? So be grateful for everything, your health, your children, right? The fact that you can get into a car and go somewhere, yes, grateful. Be grateful for everything. And then you can tell your Father what you want.
Yeah. So when we are asleep, we go to a different place and we never remember what happened. We see some dreams. We may remember the dreams, but we don't remember where we've been, what happened. Why do you think this information has been taken away from us?
It's because we would never go through with what we wanted to go through with here, right? If I wanted to come and experience homelessness, or I wanted to come and experience what it's like to be shot or raped. Now, if you knew tomorrow you're going to be beaten up by 6 guys and, sexually abused, are you going to go through with it? Nope. I mean, so if you knew tomorrow that, your child was going to die, would you want that to happen? No. So we choose to forget so we can go through with what we chose to experience here in the physical realm, right? The physical realm, again, isn't real. Like the best way I describe it is like people that like to swim or swim in the ocean, like they jump off the boat, right? And they dive into the water and they come up and they wipe the water from their face and, oh, this feels good. Do you realize that never in your life, in your existence, have you ever felt water? You've never dove into a lake or an ocean. You never got wet. Why? It's not real. Your avatar is experiencing jumping in water, but who you truly are have never experienced jumping into water. So, I mean, that's a good example of it. We just wouldn't go through with what we wanted to go through with. So we choose to forget so we can fully immerse ourselves in the dream, in the illusion of being separate, only to find ourselves and realize I and the Father are one. When I say that, it kind of freaks people out. Last person that spoke that aloud was Jesus when he said, I and the Father are one. And I'm telling you right now, I and the Father are one. Without question. No doubt. So we choose to forget so we can immerse ourselves.
So when you saw Jesus, how did you know there was Jesus? You felt him, okay.
I recognized his energy instantly. I knew exactly who it was. I didn't need to see him. And that's why my NDE was so different, because once I was out and clear in who that was, it was undeniable. That was my Father, and that was Yeshua.
Okay. Have you been a believer before your experience? You went to church, you were praying, you were reading the Bible, or nothing like that?
Yeah, I was. Like my grandparents. My grandparents kind of gave me my religious background. I don't know if my parents were ever anything. Most of my stuff all of my stuff came from my grandparents, mostly my grandmother, who was, Catholic, and my grandparents. So they taught me, They took me to church. They sent me to a Catholic school for 2 years to CCD. I went to CCD. So I had all of that. And like I said, I firmly believed in heaven and hell, good and bad, right and wrong, God and the devil, all these wars, angel wars, and all of this taking place, right? I firmly believed it. And then in the moment of my transition home, that was all whoop, gone. I was like, I'm home. None of this is real. I was like, we were taught wrong. We were taught wrong. And that's why the non-physical is, they're worried about us because we keep going down the path of the ego when we're not supposed to, So, and like I said, if you look at the world today, you watch the news, you're seeing the ego at work.
Okay, so because you were knowledgeable in Christianity before your NDE, maybe this is why you saw Jesus. Because you were expecting to see Jesus.
No. That Jesus, remember, Jesus wasn't a Christian. Christianity did not exist until 400 years after his death, when the Bible was being written. But I can't say that because Christianity was around 500, Constantine, or a little before that. But Jesus was a Jew. And when he spoke of I and the Father are one, isn't it written in your law? I said, you are gods. He's talking about Hebrew law, right? He's not talking about Christianity. So even though I was brought up, I was inundated with Father and Yeshua. So it had nothing to do with my being a Christian. It had to do with my belief in that being. So, even Hindus and Muslims see Jesus, because he is a true spiritual being.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you next. Let's say if you lived in India or somewhere in East Asia, you never heard of Jesus. You think you would see Jesus and recognize Jesus right away?
Absolutely. 100%. It may, when we leave this physical realm, we need some time off. So a lot of people, when they talk about, they're like, where am I? What's going on? And then they instantly know or recognize without Jesus showing up the energy, right? Because we all come from home, right? So they recognize it and are like, that's Jesus, and it doesn't matter who you are, whether you're a diehard atheist or you're a Muslim or a Hindu. It doesn't matter. Once that transition takes place and you are starting to unwind from the physical realm into home, things start to become more clear, but for most it takes time. Mine was instant knowledge. I just knew instantly. I didn't need to see, hear. I just knew.
What was that light? You've seen that light in the corner for a while. How long was that? I don't know. You said a month?
Yeah, about a month.
Yeah, what was that light?
It was just the undeniable presence of Father. That's Father. Father, we simply exist as love, light, and energy. Okay, that's all we are. So when I say I was encompassed in that light, the moment I left this body, that I merged with that light, I became one with the light, meaning I and the Father are one. I became God. Okay, I was my Father, right? So that is the light. That is who we are. You throw in the love and then you throw in the energy. We are the direct manifestations of our Father.
But then you said that at one point that light disappeared.
Once I woke,
okay,
it was gone. Remember when Jesus pushed me back when he pushed me back in and he laid me down, I was instantly put to sleep. How long? I don't know. But then when I woke up from that, that was all gone.
All right. But how long, by the medical terms, you were away out of your body? How long you were dead?
Don't know.
They didn't tell you. They didn't tell you in the hospital.
No, they never told me. They never told me when I went in for a job, and this older lady, it was a doctor. She was looking at my medical records, and she just kept turning around and looking at me like she looked at me, and she said, "You shouldn't be here." Kind of mad, and I'm like, what do you, I have to, it's for a job. I need, she goes, no, you shouldn't be here. You should be dead. Do you know you had a 0.0001% chance of living? She goes, do you understand that you're a miracle? You should be dead. And I'm like, well, guess what? I was, and I'm here, and I'm healthy, and I need this physical. So, but she goes, she was very angry with me. It's like, she said again, you know, standing in front of me, you're a miracle.
So why do you think you had to come back on this earth? What was the purpose?
I am a chosen one, and I will explain. There are other chosen ones. You may have heard this term. I had an out of body experience 2 years ago. I was out of my body, and I was in this beautiful realm, and I could see a figure walking towards me as two suns. It was really bright. I could feel the water, the waves coming, and I'm walking down this beach, and there was another presence right next to me. And I'm like, who are you? And this is all there's no, it's all through, you know, your thoughts. And he said, I'm Jeffrey. I'm your guide. I've been with you from the very beginning. And I said, Jeffrey? I said, man, I can't call you Jeffrey. I said, that's the Toys R Us giraffe. I said, I'm going to have to call you John. You know, I still call him Jeffrey, but it was funny at that moment. I said, Jeffrey, how many times have I been here? How many times have I died? And he says, and the number was instantly given, over 3,200. I said, I've died over 3,200 times? He goes, yes, you're ancient. And then I was pulled back into my body, and I'm like, I woke up. The whole football stadium's gone. I mean, it's empty. The players are gone. Stands are empty. So who knows how long I was gone? Probably half an hour or so or more, right? And I wake up, and I'm not wake up, but I come back, and I'm like, what the hell does ancient mean? I mean, we created the universe 5 billion years ago. So are you telling me? And what the answer was given to me, like 6 months later, I was in an IANS sharing group, and I was telling my story, and a researcher had popped up, and he says, the reason you were called ancient is because you're a chosen one. And he says, you've been walking this earth for 30,000 years, helping others. You're chosen, meaning you keep choosing to come back to help humanity, you know, right itself and to do those things. And he said, chosen ones generally have hard lives. They choose difficult situations because at the end of it, their life you'll have that abundance. You'll have that, you know, and it all made sense. It all felt perfect. The answers was given. So that was an amazing, that was, again, I've been asking, you know, what, you know, and then here I have this, he brings me back home, he brings me, you know, and then the answers are given, and then, you know, it's my job to come back and, you know, come on, talk, and release that out there for everybody. So I'm a chosen one.
So that was the reason for the near-death experience you had, so you can awaken and remember who you are.
Yep, exactly. And so I could get back on track and do what I came here to do, which was to wake all of you up to say, look, wake up, realize who you are. Okay? You're a God. You're a divine being of immense love, immense power, and immense knowledge. You are everything that has ever existed and will ever exist. You are God. And you know, that's the simple truth. You are God. You've just forgotten who you are.
Yeah, I heard that term many times from my guests. Now, if people want to find more about you, about what you do, maybe you have a book, a website, a YouTube channel, would you like to mention that here?
Yes, I do have a YouTube channel. You know, you can find me under Jason Janis. It's Love and Light Jason. So you can find that there. That's my YouTube channel. And then I do have a website for those that want a more personal or one-on-one encounter with me, which is loveandlightjason.com. You can find that website. And that will put you in touch with another email. So if you want to contact me, then it will have all of that information in there.
Okay. I'm going to ask you two questions. Jason, what's your definition of God?
What is my definition of God? Shortest answer, me. All of us. We're all God. God is love and light and energy. That's it. God is love unconditionally.
And we are infinite. We live, we never die. We live forever.
That is correct. We are eternal. There is no death. Death is an illusion, just as time. It's all an illusion. There is no death.
But at one point, because in this life we don't remember that, when you were on the other side, you said that you knew everything. Mm-hmm. You probably knew about all your past lives, you knew everything. Now, when you came back, you forgot about all that, right?
Yeah, we're not allowed to remember, no.
Why? Okay.
Nope. Because it's part of our journey.
Yeah.
You know, it's part of our awakening. It's finding out who we are. And that's what I mean by us having to do the work. If you want to sit and be a bum in the woods, you're going to incarnate again until you finally get it through your head that you've got to do this. You've got to, you know. So.
But you remember that you remembered.
Correct. Yep. You're allowed to remember enough to evolve, I guess. You know, you're allowed to remember certain things. And in that process, as time goes on, I'm allowed to remember more and more. You know, the questions that I answer, and then all of a sudden I'll remember it in my NDE and I can validate it that way, right? Or, you know, I'll be in a meeting and somebody will be speaking. I'm like, oh my God, there it is, right? And it's a validation of my experience. So they will come. More and more will come over time, but again, you have to do the work. If I'm not doing the readings and I'm not doing the YouTube research and I'm not doing all that, all those questions that I have will never be answered, right? I will just be like, what next, you know? But it's the constant, you have to put one foot in front of the other, no matter how difficult it is, no matter what that answer is going to be.
Yeah, like you mentioned before, that is the part of you like to learn all the time. So we're always in the process of evolution and the process of learning all the time.
Yep. We are here for lessons, you know, we are here for spiritual growth. And that's it, you know. Again, as I said, there's no good or bad, right or wrong. Those are all social constructs that we, in our minds, because our minds are split, that can make sense of what the hell is happening. Could you imagine if I told you that time doesn't exist? Well, when do I go to work? When do I take a shower? When do I, we wouldn't be able to function here, right? We would be completely bamboozled. So we create all of these institutions like marriage. Marriage doesn't exist. It's a social construct, okay? There's no marriage in heaven. There's no sex in heaven. There's nothing but love, you know? So it's all a social construct here. That's not, again, it's not real.
Okay, Jason, my last question is this. What's your definition of freedom?
Knowledge. Knowledge is freedom. Knowledge is wealth. If somebody were to offer me $500 million or know what I know now, and in all honesty, yeah, I would like the 500 million, but the knowledge that I have now is precious. It's freedom. I know who I am. I know where I'm going. I know there's nothing that can hurt me here. There's nothing that can do anything to me, that it's just a game.